Ladies and gentlemen, now with enhanced lighting.
Again?
Well, I didn't call that out in the Hell in a Cell video.
Well, I think they noticed by now.
But look at these lights. You can see my face. It's so nice to see you guys, and it's so nice for you to be seeing me, I'm sure. My name is Nick Cavalli.
My name is Marcus.
Wow, he's really not having anything for me today. And yes, we are also recording this on a Tuesday.
That's why we're wearing the same shirt. At least I am.
I had to change things up a little bit of the bubbly. Represent Le Champion.
You tell he's excited because now we're talking about wrestling that we care about.
Yes. The Wednesday Night Wars, for how much I hate the term, are alive. Oh my God. Let's kick things off with the greatest professional wrestling show in the world today, Wednesday Night Dynamite. Whew. Okay, so maybe you're still a WWE guy, whatever. You do you, buddy.
So we're going to do things a little different than our normal style of podcast here.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that it is a day before the next episode of the things we're talking about.
Yes, so as we told you guys in the Hell in the Cell review, we're going to be talking about AEW's Wednesday Night Dynamite. We're also going to be talking about NXT, and we're going to be talking about Friday Night Smackdown.
We're going to touch on Smackdown.
all in the same video. So obviously we're going to have the timestamps in the description down below. Also, we'll have the little highlights here. You can click on that and you can jump straight to the video. I don't know if they still do that in YouTube, but
I don't know how YouTube works. That I just sit here and look pretty.
Yeah, so you'll be able to jump forward straight.
For those of you who don't know, I want to go ahead and point this out. This would not be possible without Marcus. You see, Marcus actually knows how YouTube works. I just have a microphone that I happen to have purchased and plugged into a computer.
And, you do that quite well, though. You plug that microphone in better than anyone I know.
I'll tell you what. This wouldn't be possible without me either because my computer has 4 USB jacks.
Yeah, so no, but all seriousness, yes, we will have timestamps for you guys in the description. So if you want to skip ahead to the Smackdown or NXT portion or vice versa, just jump around. It's there for your viewing pleasure. So we're going to start things off with AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite, as Nick so gloriously proclaimed it as the greatest professional wrestling show today. Something you're going to learn about us is that, look, I'm not like a WWE stan or anything. If there's one thing that I will defend, it's NXT. I have been saying since forever that NXT is one of the greatest things that I see on a week in and week out basis.
And you're right. I rather enjoy NXT myself.
As much as I bash Raw and Smackdown and virtually everything WWE, I still am a fan of the WWE style, and NXT is where that shines because you still get WWE style matches but done properly. So I just want to put that out there that I do have a slight bias in that regard.
And I have a slight bias in entirely the opposite direction. I was a New Japan slappy. I was an ROH slappy. So seeing these guys finally take the limelight on TNT is really great.
I watched TNA, so yeah, I had that going for me. R.I.P.
A moment of silence for TNA.
He still exists.
Thank you. So we kick things off with Sammy Guevara and the American Nightmare, Cody.
Before we jump into that match, look, I always like to kind of touch on, the appearance of each show that we review. Maybe it's a funding thing. I mean, you've got Shad Khan, so I don't see how, but AEW, you have the same set for every show. And I get it. Maybe that's your thing. That's cool. And I'm not going to harp on this hard because it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's very minor. It's just something that I personally like to see when I see pay-per-views and, weekly shows. I like to see a difference in the sets. And you've had literally the exact same set since your inception. So
I would say ideally, and this may I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but ideally that was the stage for the initial lead up pay-per-views, and now for Dynamite, I would assume the idea was, let's get this stage. This is the stage we want for Dynamite. We can afford other ones later.
I'm guessing, yeah, hopefully that's it. And if we end up just having the one stage,
It's not bad.
I can't be too mad at that. I mean, it's a good stage. It's better than the Raw stage. I'm going to keep bringing that up because, my God.
I mean, yeah, the double barrel shotgun stage definitely looks better than the half pipe.
Seriously, though. But, no, man, all right, let's jump into this.
Well, I mean, this is a great way to kick off Dynamite. I mean, there's no better way to kick off AEW's weekly television than with Cody Rhodes. Cody being on TV is obviously an amazing thing after his departure from WWE, being on TV at a major network like TNT, but then to talk about the fact that this is the debut on TNT of his brand new company, to get to be out there, not just to introduce it, but to really to debut it himself, that was very, very special. It was a pretty good pace. Both men were trading athletic moves. Both of them hit the Oz Cutter at one point, which, you know, Will Ospreay, please leave New Japan. I want you to go to AEW.
Sorry to interrupt, but Sammy Guevara put on a clinic. He looked amazing in this match. You want to talk about a coming out party for anyone? Sami Zayn.
There you go, Mr. NXT.
That's my WWE bias. No, Sammy Guevara was like, hello world, here I am. He was...
Well, and I mean, putting on a match, going into any kind of match with Cody will do that for you. I mean, you saw that happen with Darby Allin. You saw Dustin Rhodes look better than he's looked in years in a match against Cody.
Well, to be fair, though, Dustin hadn't really had, like, an avenue to really showcase himself. I mean, he was freaking gold dust in WWE.
That's true.
Look who he was fighting. He was putting on comedy matches with R-Truth. So,
which is a darn shame because the Golden Truth was great. So after the match, Sammy Guevara goes for a handshake. Cody actually goes back for a handshake, and then he's attacked from behind by Le Champion.
Y2J,
the Painmaker, Chris Jericho, and he really sustained the attack on Cody. He took the camera from the front row from one of the fans, mounted on top of Cody, and took a selfie, and then gave it back to the fan. I believe that was during the commercial.
Went full Rock and Stone Cold there.
Absolutely. So we move on to the second match, to the best up-and-coming talent in professional wrestling, the next face of the AEW, and he is better than me, and I know it, MJF.
Let me tell you something about this guy. You know you've got charisma, and you're like the next hottest thing. When we have a friend who does not watch wrestling, he's never watched wrestling, never been into wrestling, no prior knowledge or experience whatsoever.
Watch Double or Nothing with us.
First thing he did when this guy comes on is he's like ready to buy t-shirts, and he's like...
He has a Salt of the Earth t-shirt.
Yes. He's standing hard for MJF, and every time we talk about it now, like, he wants to watch every episode of Dynamite. He watches every AEW pay-per-view.
Yes, so a shout-out to Griffin. He's actually going to be joining us when he returns back home, hopefully in December, for a couple of pods on AEW. But yeah...
He won't know anything except for MJF.
But this is the thing. He has invested himself entirely in this company. He watches the AEW... YouTube channel. He watches Dynamite every week. He watches Being the Elite. He keeps up with this because of MJF.
And that's, another thing that I kind of have to give credit to AEW for is that if there's one thing that it did do is that it revitalized interest in professional wrestling, and anything that does that, you've got to give major props.
Well, that's the thing. Griffin, from what I know, had watched WWE when he was younger, but he never got interested in wrestling again until we sat down and watched an AEW pay-per-view. I had invited him over for WWE pay-per-views, and he's flat out told me no.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if I didn't... If I didn't just like hanging out with you guys, I'd probably say no too.
I mean, to be perfectly fair with you, I only put them on as a reason to hang out with you guys. It's bad. WWE really is. But let's get to the good stuff. So MJF continued to establish himself as a top heel in the company. He cuts his own music short. He walks out and he says, cut the music, cut the music. Just to remind everyone, in case you're poor and cannot watch the pay-per-views, I am Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. I'm the greatest thing to ever happen to pro wrestling. I'm better than you, and you know it. He is the hottest heel, aside from maybe Chris Jericho, the hottest heel talent. I mean, he's a better heel than Jericho, but that's because you still love Jericho when he's a heel.
I don't know if I'm going as far as to say that MJF is a better heel than Jericho. No one has revitalized and changed their persona more than Chris Jericho. He's one of the best to ever do it. I'm not going that far yet. If I am going to say, I will say he has the potential to be one of the best heels we've ever seen in professional wrestling. I mean, his mic skills alone are, I'd say, nearly unmatched today. Especially on the AEW roster.
His style in the ring is very, very... It's not necessarily methodical, or Randy Orton we just got done talking about methodical pace.
Yeah, it doesn't bore me to tears.
But it's not all out. It's not flippy. It's not crazy. But what it is everything it needs to be for in-ring psychology. This kid, and I call him a kid because he is our age.
Yeah.
He knows so much about in-ring psychology that he can put on a match with the best of them and play it off.
What does it say that MJF is performing around the world in AEW out here making, I'm assuming, thousands to maybe millions of dollars, and we're shooting a podcast in my basement?
Yep, that's what it says. You know what it says? He's better than us.
And we know
and
it.
we know it.
Yeah.
So, full props to Brandon Cutler. That's his name, right, Brandon?
Are we going to get props to him?
I mean, look, he played a really good underdog role. He looked very shaky. We got our...
Dude, he was
our first unintentional masturbation joke of ever when we were talking about the D&D muscles.
If I'm being honest with you, Cutler looked like he was nervous. I mean, we got some botches in there. Yeah. He's not very polished in the ring.
No, but I think genuinely, Brandon Cutler is going to wind up being a pretty good underdog storyline going forward. But I mean, he had no chance. He could just
disappear.
He had no chance. It's MJF.
I mean, I'd be okay either way if he just disappeared. I'd be fine with that.
We follow this up. Cutler gets knocked to the ground after some skeevy heel tactics. MJF pulls the ref in front of him while Cutler's about to hit him in the corner. And then MJF applies the salt of the earth submission. Cutler taps out. We go on to the next segment, which was a Jay and Silent Bob promo. This is one of the things that I'm going to let him break down because...
Oh, no, I thought we were a little bit further ahead.
I mean, we are more than welcome to skip over that because... To be honest with you, other than a couple of shameless plugs and the fact that Chris Jericho apparently is now involved, Scorpio Obama Sky
and SCU.
What a fantastic promo cut by Scorpio Sky.
Oh, you mean
yeah, Scorpio Obama.
Scorpio Obama, yeah.
It was a great way to cut a promo in DC. It was a great idea. And Scorpio, you do that voice way too well, man.
I was convinced. I wasn't paying attention to the TV when the promo started, and then I heard that come on. I was like, "What is going on?"
I was genuinely convinced they got an Obama voiceover.
But yeah, amazing SCU promo. They do the typical, "This is the worst town I've ever been to." SCU is just red hot. The crowd loves these guys.
Well, it's fantastic, and they're eating it up, but they're one of the many really good tag teams or stables that we see in AEW. I mean, it's hard to get behind a tag team in this tag team tournament because aside from the Dark Order, which
We'll get to that.
I hope not. Yeah, I mean, not tonight, but yeah. So the dark, aside from the Dark Order, I mean, you've got in that tag team tournament, you have SCU, Jurassic Express, or a boy and his dinosaur, whatever you want to call it, the Lucha Bros, the Young Bucks, the Best Friends, and the Private Party.
Oh, you mean the Street Profits?
The Private Party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Private Party.
Yeah.
Anyways, so then SCU appears on the stage. They're cutting a promo about their extreme confidence that they will be walking out the first ever All Elite Wrestling Tag Team Champions. They are interrupted by the Lucha Bros, who quickly remind SCU that they will be facing the best tag team in the universe and that they have zero miedo. Brawl breaks out, and hi, Dean Malenko. It's nice to finally see your beautiful, shining face back on TNT. Man, another callback to WCW. We had a lot of those throughout the night. Tony Schiavone and JR talked a lot about how important it was that this is the first episode of professional wrestling airing on TNT since, 2001?
Well, the ironic thing I find about this is that even though this is called the Wednesday Night Wars, Cody Rhodes and AEW have made it plain that they're not trying to go to war with WWE, that they're trying to provide just an alternative to the general product.
Right, they're not trying to buy the competition. They're just there to provide the alternative product for fans like myself, who I became so disengaged with WWE that I missed probably 8 consecutive pay-per-views before AEW came back around, and I said, well, maybe I'll do this podcast thing we've been talking about for a while, and I suppose that means I actually have to watch WWE's garbage.
Yeah, this isn't like Ted Turner trying to crush Vince McMahon because he felt scorned. This is generally just people that love wrestling doing what they think is best for the wrestling business. That's the
thing. Having gone to All Out and seen the promo that Tony Khan cut after the pay-per-view went off the air, to hear him talk about how much passion he has for professional wrestling and for the fans, and talk about I grew up on this stuff. I've always loved professional wrestling. I only want to do what's best for it. And I remember as a fan of pro wrestling thinking, why don't they listen to the fans more? That's why I'm here. Hearing that and seeing the product that they've put out so far, I mean, this is only technically their 5th show. But to see the product that they've put out so far, mad props to Tony Khan and to Cody Rhodes for putting that together.
Absolutely. So
we move on to the next match, which was Pac. It is officially pronounced Pac. There was a podcast where they asked the man himself, and he said it would be pronounced as though it was spelled P-O-C-K.
This is one of my few, if only, negatives about this show, and it was one of my only negatives about
All Out.
And
Pac can't lose.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and explain?
So, with Dragon Gate showing him as this premier talent, undefeated strength, hasn't lost in 2 years, part of the agreement to allow him to wrestle at AEW, at least at the time that he was first supposed to debut, was that he was not allowed to lose, which is rumored to be part of the reason that AEW pulled out of that initial journey with Pac. Him coming back probably has a lot more to do with Jon Moxley getting injured than anything else. Infected with MRSA than anything else. And it takes away from the surprise factor. I mean, it's kind of obvious the way things are going to turn out.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the match was fantastic because it's Pac and it's Hangman Page.
Exactly, and spoiler alert, this is my match of the night. Pac and Hangman Page, match of the night, hands down. These guys can go at a, no pun intended, elite level forever. And I think they did a fantastic job. I mean, again, obvious winner of the match. Thanks, Dragon Gate. But the two put on a fantastic contest that ends with a Black Arrow and a Brutalizer.
Yeah.
Pac, I know that they're still pronouncing your name Pac, even though you very clearly have said it's pronounced Pac. Pac, you have been putting on some fantastic matches. I can't wait to see what happens when the Dragon Gate contract runs out and you are able to become an unpredictable member of the AEW roster.
Just another example of how WWE underutilizes talent. I mean, think about what they had this guy doing. He was a freaking superhero on Monday Night Raw.
Dude, Neville versus Stephen
and
Amell.
Losing the Enzo Amore for the Cruiserweight Championship. And this is one of the elite talents in professional wrestling today. And you're seeing it showcased in AEW.
Exactly. You look at him and he looks perfect for AEW. He's got the right build. He's a smaller guy, but he's very strong, and he has that heart. And that's the one thing I will continue to talk about. We talked about how Randy Orton looks bored in the ring. You don't see that out of any of these guys.
Let's not disregard Hangman Page. I mean, he's, again, another up-and-coming star. He also looked fantastic in this match. And we talked about this in Chicago, I was worried about where he was going to go after that loss to Jericho, how they were going to handle it. And, another loss last week, obviously still not great, at least in my eyes, but he looked fantastic in the match, and clearly he hasn't lost any crowd support. He comes out and the crowd's chanting cowboy shit, so they love the guy.
I think, and Cody put it best himself, he may be the best member of the Elite, and we just don't know it.
Exactly.
Cody said there were guys talking to him in ROH about, what did you teach that kid? You really did a good job taking him under your wing because he really learned a lot of stuff. And Cody said, I didn't teach him anything.
Yeah.
We were just going in the ring the same way that we always do. So that was a fantastic match. I'm excited to see what happens. I believe, if I recall correctly, God, I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. Tomorrow, is going to be Hangman Page and Dustin Rhodes versus Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara.
That's going to be a great match.
I can't wait. I'm a mark, okay? I know I called you marks. I'm a mark. The women's championship match came next, and this was another one where the winner seemed kind of predetermined. I mean, obviously, yes, winners are predetermined, but did you see the size of that belt? You want to tell me how that was ever going to fit on Nyla Rose in any way? She couldn't wrap that around her bicep.
They gave that away, and again, one of the few negatives of this show. First of all, and this is no knock to Riho, but of all the women you could have had fight Nyla Rose, you want to talk about the David versus Goliath angle? I mean, come on.
So you and I both have openly talked about this, and our favorite member of the AEW women's roster has departed.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I mean, we haven't looked into it too much deeper, but Kylie Rae was without a doubt my favorite member of that roster. I personally find Britt Baker a little bit insufferable. I really hope that our next contender is Bea Priestley. I feel like that would be interesting.
I do like Britt Baker. I'm not as much of a mark for her as, a lot of the IWC, but I don't hate her like Nick does.
Yeah, I don't see the appeal, but I mean, she is good in the ring. She's not bad, I guess. Anyways, so this was the traditional David versus Goliath type matchup. I mean, Nyla Rose dominated the front portion of this matchup. There wasn't a whole lot of back and forth until Nyla Rose did the thing that big people do in big matches, and they try to do things that they shouldn't do in big matches.
Went to the top rope.
She didn't even go to the top rope. It was on the apron, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the top rope to Nyla Rose. Are you kidding me? And she's jumping to the outside.
Well, there was a spot, where she did go to the top rope.
So Nyla Rose at one point breaks out a chair and goes after Riho. And the ref, you up to this point would have been my MVP. Dude snatches the chair out of Nyla's hand and says, "This is the first women's championship match in All Elite Wrestling. It's not ending in DQ. Good try. You're not doing that."
And I'm thankful because it's kind of become at least in our friend group, a running joke, kind of like a meme.
Referee's discretion.
The referee's discretion, because every time there's something that's like a clear disqualification, even later on in this show we see it, but the whole the commentators have to kind of make up for it, referee's discretion, and it's no, come on.
Then could you say that it was referee's discretion to throw out that Hell in a Cell match?
This is two different companies here, Nick. You are not going to do that.
Anyways,
that'd be a great way. That's how Vince gets out of that. Yeah, referee's discretion for every match from now on.
No, you weren't supposed to say that because we all know that Vince has bugs in our basement.
Yeah, you're right.
That's another running joke with our friend group. Much of the things that we put on our WWE 2K universe mode randomly get picked up by Vince McMahon.
Yeah, they tend to just start popping up.
The Raw stage right after the draft, not this one. Definitely not this one. Not the one before that, but the one with the big old thing over the top and the exact setup for that. Yeah, that was one of our arenas in 2K. Good job, Vince. You didn't make it obvious. We're coming for your money, boy. Anyways, Riho is then on the ground, Nyla on top of chairs. Nyla Rose gets up on the apron, goes for the senton, misses, and by misses I mean Riho rolled out of the way and she just went smack onto the chairs. Riho gets up, hits a move herself onto Nyla Rose onto the chairs. And Riho manages to pull out the win. And, I mean,
good for Riho, I guess.
Hey, it's great news because the traditional style belt, if that's what you want to call it, that's not going to ever fit.
It almost seems like we also made a joke, too, that they ran out of money on the regular World Championship. So they were like, here you go.
Reports are that AEW wanted to go with a traditional style women's championship belt, like something you would see in the past.
I mean, that's fine, but you could still make it the strap bigger so it can fit
on people?
Because let's say Nyla Rose had won that match.
Then she wears it as a pinky ring.
I was going to say, what's she going to do? Strap it around her freaking arm? What? I don't know, man. It's just...
So then we get to... we get to the main event, and it is, it's not necessarily Spot Fest, but it's a Star Fest, that's for sure.
When people think the stereotypical indie wrestling match, I think this is kind of what they think of.
So you got Chris Jericho, who is apparently now the king of the indies. Santana and Ortiz, formerly known as LAX, against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, the Elite. And this was just a fantastic match, top to bottom. Spots everywhere. The chemistry was fantastic. First of all, the in-ring chemistry between the guys, LAX, Santana and Ortiz, that's going to take a minute to get used to, and the Young Bucks is fantastic. Kenny and Jericho have great chemistry. Jericho has good chemistry with the Young Bucks due to his cruise.
This kind of shows you just how great of a match this was, that this could have been, if it was just Santana and Ortiz versus the Young Bucks, that would have been an amazing tag team match. If it was just Jericho versus Kenny Omega, that would have been an amazing singles match. And the fact that you can put them together in a 6-man tag,
and it's
still an amazing match. Like, WWE, this is how you book a six-man tag team match.
That's what we were talking about with Hell in a Cell. Viking Raiders versus the OC. Might have been an okay match. AJ Styles versus Braun Strowman. Might have been okay-ish.
Yeah, it could have been a good match. Together.
The whole match was awful.
Yeah.
Now, when we get to Raw, and obviously, if you're going in order of our podcasts, you have not gotten to Raw yet. But if you go to Raw, and you look at the Lucha House Party in the OC, and we were joking about how that's an awful match, and we were thinking, if it was a 2-on-2 and it was Lince Dorado and Grand Metalik against Gallows and Anderson, that'd be a pretty good match.
An amazing match.
And Kalisto versus AJ for the U.S. title would be like outstanding.
Almost like you should be booking your U.S. champion in championship matches.
But then you put it in a 6-man and it looks awful. And then you look at AEW and you put Chris Jericho with Santana and Ortiz.
A pairing that you wouldn't think would work.
Against the Elite, who have been a 6-man group for a long time. And you get a fantastic match. Which gets even better when Kenny Omega goes down into a pose. The crowd doing the Terminator clap. And out of nowhere comes John effing Moxley.
He's back.
Moxley looks fantastic.
Still in phenomenal shape, by the way.
And I'm super excited to see him go against Shawn Spears tomorrow night. But we talk about how great Moxley was. I would have given the MVP to the glass table, but I suppose a real-life person would be a better selection. The table that Moxley put Omega through.
That was brutal.
I showed the clip to my dad, who's not a wrestling fan at all, and he went, wow, that's actually really cool. I said, this is what made me get back into wrestling. I then showed it to my mom, who went, oh, don't show that to me again. That's really terrifying. And I said, that's another reason I got back into wrestling.
It was a relatively dangerous spot.
That was a safe bump.
He dropped Kenny right through the metal bar part of the table on his head.
Yeah, that's what a DDT should look like, by the way.
Yeah, so Kenny, are you okay?
Kenny's the Terminator. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then, spot of the night, Kenny the cleaner. Kenny grabs the mop and starts mopping up the aisleway before hitting Moxley over the head with it. And then we do get a triple team move. Santana and Ortiz do a double team move and then whip one of the Young Bucks. I'm sorry. Again, it's been so long since we actually watched this match. Into the Judas Effect. The best finisher in wrestling.
That may be on levels with the Bailey to Belly in terms of
the
bad
the
finishers.
Thunder Fist, the Lightning Fist from John Cena. Now they described it in a good way. I can't remember where I was watching this. I was watching a video about Jericho learning, and he was training in MMA. And the guy said, usually we don't train people on a back elbow because it's potentially deadly move because of the amount of momentum you put into it. So if you think about it realistically, pretty good move. It doesn't look that impressive, kind of like the Hulk Hogan leg drop. It doesn't look impressive, but you do that to someone in real life, you probably kill them.
Or at least badly injure them.
Yeah, so kudos to Jericho. You have a protected finisher, which...
Well, my thing with the Judas Effect, too, is that it's never going to... Unless you can get it as perfect as you did the very first time you hit it, it's never going to look as impressive. Like the first time he went like deep in the neck with that elbow. It was like spot on, perfectly connected. And then these last couple times, he's just kind of whiffed with it. Like when it's like that, it's like, oh, you beat him with a back elbow. Like
but the first time he hit it, you went, oh my god,
that's killed him.
The Judas Effect.
He killed him.
Hits it for the 1, 2, 3. I'm actually kind of interested because, you talk about protective finishers, you talk about indie wrestling, and you have more finisher protection than you do in WWE, but you also have a lot of like near fall counts. So it's going to be interesting to see who is the first person to kick out of the Judas Effect. Not even Kenny Omega could kick out of it.
To be fair, though, Kenny's taking some L's, though. What's nice is that, and this is my biggest fear, was that when they announced All Elite Wrestling, my first thought was, oh, God, the Elite's going to get pushed to the moon.
Yeah.
I know they're not like that, but, obviously the cynicism in myself, and
the fact that you've watched Triple H do this for how long?
Yeah, I just kind of assumed, and thankfully that's not what's been happening, so I kind of assumed that was going to be what would happen, but no.
And you got, at the end of the night, an Attitude Era-esque post-match brawl to end the night. And this was another one of the things. So throughout the night, JR and Tony Schiavone had been reminding people, this is why it's TV 14, not TV PG. Taking shots, of course, at WWE and their wussification of wrestling, if you will. It's almost like those phantom roughing the passer calls. So this is another thing that you...
Do you have any Saints fans watching the podcast?
This is one of those things that you haven't gotten a lot of lately either. So Cody comes in, he attacks Jericho immediately. He turns around to take a low blow from Sammy Guevara. Sammy gets on top, starts mounting Cody. Dustin Rhodes comes out. He attacks Santana and Ortiz and then delivers a low blow to Sammy Guevara. And then Jake Hager, the undefeated MMA Bellator man, better known as Jack Swagger.
AEW, congratulations. You got people to pop for Jack Swagger. Jack Swagger.
Well, and it's so funny because you look at the last major promo he cut, which was in 5-Star Wrestling, and it's depressing.
Yeah.
But the dude knows his way around a ring.
And it's actually kind of funny because we popped for it. We did. The live crowd popped for it. But then
Time out. I actually liked Jack Swagger. I popped when he hit the Swagger bomb.
Well, look, I never had any issue with Jack Swagger. Like I just said, I popped for it. The live crowd popped for it. But then it's kind of funny. You go on like Twitter or YouTube, you kind of read some of the response to it. It's almost people like, and it almost seemed like a lot of it was like, the WWE stands, kind of like the AEW critics. But even fans of AEW, it was kind of like a joke. It was like, that was your, your big reveal, your first, like, y'all brought out Jack Swagger, like, all right, I'm switching to NXT. Like, that was kind of like the joke, like,
yeah.
Like,
well,
all right, I'm going to head out. Like, that.
And I think the best part was Jake Hager's message on Instagram, which I'm glad we're recording this late because he just posted this, I believe, today. Who's next?
Okay, Goldberg.
So we had a fantastic time with that. So we're going to go ahead. Match of the night for AEW. You got one?
My match of the night, I think, is the same as yours.
All right, so Pac, whatever your name is, and Hangman Adam Page, MVP.
Pac. It's got to be Pac.
That's totally understandable. My MVP...
Actually, no. My MVP for the night might actually shock you. I think it's Sammy
Guevara. That's a good pick. I could not possibly disagree with you on any of these picks. I mean, unless one of these days you pick like Evil Uno as your MVP.
Or the librarian.
God, I forgot she exists. Which one? Which one, though?
Either one. They're both terrible.
I mean, I could maybe get behind Leva Bates. Then
No.
Okay.
No, stop it.
My MVP for the night is the real American Jake Hager. Look, okay, so make fun of me all you want. I've always been a fan of Jack Swagger. I thought this guy was a legitimate badass. And the thing that makes me think of this is he had all the potential in the world. He's an Olympian, not quite on the level of Kurt Angle, but an Olympian, an NCAA wrestler.
Win a medal.
No, I know. But he went to the Olympics.
I guess.
He was an NCAA wrestler. He was a fantastic guy for a while there. I don't know if he still holds it, but he held the record for most pinfalls in the heavyweight division for the Oklahoma Sooners. He's a great wrestler. He really is. And he's got a lot of talent in him. And the thing that I think is going to be important for Hager is that he doesn't get overexposed. This is a guy who has the ability to legitimately beat the hell out of somebody, and he has the legitimate ability to make you tap like that.
Also, don't give him a microphone.
Yeah, okay,
Don't
so that's
let
the
him
thing.
talk.
That's one of the things that I think is going to help, is that he is in a stable now. Because we found this out. They've apparently made a stable where it is Jericho, Guevara, Hager, Ortiz, and Santana.
That's quite a unit.
And they have the ability to do something great here. And speak for Jack Swagger. I think his in-ring ability speaks for itself. And the fact that he has, he's only 2-0 in Bellator, but both of them are first-round submissions. That means you know what you're doing. You know your way around submissions. So I think Jake Hager is going to be a great addition. So we're going to actually just quick transaction. Good English. Quick. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, if you are skipping ahead in the video, this is now the NXT portion of the Wrevolution Podcast. So
and
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, this is where you'll become a little bit more relevant than myself. You're a big NXT guy. I took a while off of NXT. I actually watched NXT UK more than I watched NXT for a while there, but
that was just because you were a big What Culture guy.
Yeah, so shout out to the guys at Cultaholic, to be honest with you. You guys got me into British wrestling. So, sure none of you will ever see this video, but hey, we ever make it. Shout out to you guys. This is for you.
So, what did WWE do in their response to the AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite coming out? And what's their effort, the way they go about trying to drag fans away from Dynamite?
Let's just start the night with the NXT Championship match.
They kick off their show with a championship match. And
the curtain jerker is Cole and Riddle.
Not only that, but I'm going to just, spoiler alert, this is probably my match of the night. These two had a fantastic match. And it's even hard for me to say it's match of the night because there were so many good matches on this show. And that's my thing with NXT. That is why I love this brand, is because everything just keeps you invested. Like, every moment, I'm just like, what's going to happen next? I want to see what's happening next. And, that's my thing with AEW, too. But, this is what makes me excited, is because it's WWE that's doing it. And when is the last time you've been excited about something that's happening in WWE?
Outside of The Fiend?
Yeah.
2015?
I was going to say the last episode of NXT.
No,
genuinely, besides NXT, what's getting you excited?
The last storyline that genuinely grasped me in the way that NXT storylines grasped me was Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins during the run, where Ambrose stole the title belt after the ladder match, and that run was the last time I was this genuinely invested in WWE. Maybe AJ John Cena, but still, you're still talking 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, but it's amazing. So I don't want to fanboy anymore. Let's just get right into it.
Well, my funny thing is they are kicking the night off in NXT with the most AEW-like match they possibly could. Adam Cole and Matt Riddle. Wow, okay. Well, I'm getting my Harry Potter and NXT references mixed up. Matt Riddle absolutely went at it in an indie-type spot fest, and it was interesting from start to finish.
And what's funny to me is that you're not a Matt Riddle fan. You don't like Matt Riddle.
Dude, keep your shoes on. It's just gross, man.
It's when he came out, you have just an irrational just dislike for the dude. You said you love his in-ring ability. You think he's you just don't like the guy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just because he reminds me of all the people who bullied me in high school.
Man, I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Was I one of those people?
No, you were one of the only people who didn't.
Shout out to Stevenson.
Yeah. Stay classy, Stevenson. I don't know. I don't love the guy. I think he's a great wrestler. I think he's got fantastic in-ring ability. Something just rubs me the wrong way, and that's nothing against you. So don't take it wrong when I say that. Don't get upset. Of course, I'm talking like he's going to watch this. Don't get upset at it. I think you have fantastic talent on the mic, in the ring, on Twitter, whatever. You have one of those faces that's just punchable. Like, you ever look at somebody and go, yeah, I really could just punch them in the face right now.
And then he'd break your arm.
Well, yeah, that's perfectly fair. I would never punch you in the face because you could kill me. But, yeah, he has a punchable face,
I mean, that's fair. But, yeah, so we get Adam Cole comes out, and you want to talk about someone who's red, piping hot, like out of the oven, like Adam Cole, baby, comes out, and, the whole crowd. I mean, this is a guy who got, like, a boom! Who got something that's just a little phrase in his entrance theme over. He comes out and does the boom, and the whole crowd is doing it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Adam Cole is ridiculously over with the NXT fans, and so is Riddle in his own right.
The Undisputed Era was an idea that probably shouldn't have and wouldn't have been successful had it been
without Adam Cole.
Anybody else. I mean, talk about, Roderick Strong, who is an amazing talent, but kind of no one just seemed to care about. Put him in this group, instant rise to success.
Well, the funny thing is, you and I both really liked Roddy Strong beforehand, but we were like, they don't really have anything for him to do.
Yeah, it was just like, you're great, Roderick Strong, but you're just kind of there.
But this match ended in a little bit of controversy with Adam Cole, according to Matt Riddle, Adam Cole hitting him with the cast that he had on the injured arm. Adam Cole then later that night went on to say he was required by WWE Medical to wear the cast to the ring because of the extent of his injury. So interesting booking decision. I don't have a problem with it. It's fine by me.
It makes Matt Riddle look strong, too. The fact that Adam Cole had to most likely cheat to win.
And it continues with the Adam Cole. It kind of cheapens his title reign a little bit, which is important that's by the end of the night.
And that's fine, though, because Adam Cole is, by every definition, a chicken shit heel.
Exactly. So. I do everything I possibly can to win the match and walk out with my title. But again, cheapening the reign is important by the end of the night.
And then we get what happens next, which is this gives you goosebumps just getting ready to talk about it. One of the biggest announcements ever for NXT, the return of the Demon King,
Finn Balor.
He comes out. The crowd just loses their mind. And this is one of the benefits of staying at Full Sail every week, is that you're getting that red hot crowd week in and week out. Like, you're never gonna be worried about going to like some random middle of nowhere location. I'm not gonna take shots at any city or towns, but some of these locations WWE goes to, it's like, that's not a wrestling town. Why are you there? And the crowd just doesn't care at all. But staying at Full Sail, you're getting wrestling fans every week, and they understood the importance of this moment. And just like the people watching around the world understood the importance of this moment. Balor comes out, and he's just drinking it in.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, I mean, like they never have to worry about giving a show at Watkins Glen, New York.
Yeah, but this made me happy for a multitude of reasons. First of all, it's Finn Balor. I have been, ever since he made it to the main roster, and he lost his Universal Championship from injury, he has just not been able to recover, like, at all. It's like Vince goes, "Well, there was your opportunity. You blew it, kid. Sorry." And he just hasn't been able to get back to the top.
Oh, and this is the thing. When that happened, it was a signal that WWE finally got back on track. They finally got back to where they needed to be. We're going to push the young kid. We're going to put this on his back, and we are going to make this like NXT.
You want to talk about some of the biggest what-ifs in professional wrestling.
What if Balor never gets hurt?
Think about what WWE could have became, like where they could have pushed this kid, the things that they could have done.
But we can't. Sounds like a pretty good video for if we get enough subscribers. I see all you views out there who aren't subscribing.
But enough with dwelling in the past. We got to talk about this moment. Yeah, Balor comes out and he announces that NXT is his house. It's his home.
I am NXT.
And by that alone, he is staking his claim for the NXT championship.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to follow up Finn Balor, but I think Velveteen did a pretty good job of that.
Velveteen Dream is one of those, you gotta be a wrestling fan to just get it, because if you're not, it's weird. And that's the thing about wrestling. Wrestling is weird. It's wacky. It's goofy. But it's so funny and so cool at the same time.
Like wacky Dean Ambrose?
Well, that was lame in every facet of the word.
John Moxley, I'm so sorry you had to go through that phase in your life.
Yeah, but Velveteen Dream comes out. He's like sitting and he's surrounded by gorgeous women. You've got the purple smoke and the lighting, and the crowd's just eating it up. And then, since what this all boils down to is a challenge to Roderick Strong.
Mm-hmm. A challenge to Roderick Strong to have a North American Championship match in which no other members of the Undisputed Era involve themselves, because to be a real man, you have to fight me one-on-one.
So, next we jump into some women's division action.
Io Shirai. Oh my God.
You want to talk about someone who I didn't think could pull off a heel turn? I mean, we talk about the Kabuki Warriors, and we talk about Bayley, who we don't think can pull off heel turns. This is an example of taking someone that it shouldn't work.
Oh, and she is tremendously over as a heel.
Yes, I mean the complete 180 attitude switch. I didn't see it coming. Was not a fan of the heel turn when I first saw it, but my God, has she taken this and ran with it?
Yeah, she did a fantastic job. And then she was against Mia Yim last night.
Her not her light, but like, I don't know. She had a nice little thing going. It just seems like the crowd's kind of not soured on her, but like, I don't know. She's dimmed a little bit. Her star is fading.
Time for another Mae Young Classic is what it sounds like.
Yeah, she's not exactly as hot as she was, not as over as she was before. It almost seemed like if you were gonna pull the trigger, it would have been, at the last NXT pay-per-view. You clearly were not going to, but yeah, that Mia Yim, she's still relatively over though with the crowd, and she's an amazing performer in the ring.
Maybe she's not as over because the best women's wrestler in the world is coming back to NXT. Tegan Nox. Tegan, I've been following you for a long, long time. I am so excited to have you back in the WWE ring. You are the one to dethrone Shayna Baszler. It's you.
You've heard it right here, folks. We're calling it.
Called it first.
So yeah, Io Shirai picks up the victory, unsurprisingly. And then we get on to what on paper is an amazing match, but you don't realize just how good this match is until you see it. And that's Johnny Gargano, Johnny Wrestling.
So I'm going to actually let you take the lead on this one. I was actually not at the television during this match. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I had some business to tend to with my ongoing political campaign. So instead...
Sterling Heights residents, Cavalli for council.
So instead, Marcus and our friend, also named Nick, were able to watch this match. And I could probably give you Nick's insight on the match.
Well, I don't want to... Like I said, we're not really breaking down these matches. So, I mean, it's Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorne, who was one half of the tag team TM61. And that, as a stable, at least in NXT, they never really got over. They were always seen as good workhorses, great in-ring technicians, but...
Good hand.
Yeah, but they just... it just didn't click. It didn't click with me. It didn't click with the crowd. I know it didn't click with you.
No, it certainly did not click with me.
But
the first time I turned on to a TM61 match, it was actually their debut, and I was really excited. I heard a lot about these guys, and I'd seen some wrestlers from that area in the past do extremely well. And they just did not turn it on at any point. I mean, again, it's not that they're bad. They just, in professional wrestling, you don't have to be just great at what you do. You have to show it. You have to go over and above. We talk about great heels and being a great heel. The reason Chris Jericho is a great heel is not just because he does underhanded heel tactics. It's because he picked a wiener up off the ring when somebody threw it in there, got a mic, and yelled at the crowd.
Look at the t-shirt you're wearing. Something as simple as the phrase, a little bit of the bubbly, and it went viral.
If you can get a little bit of the bubbly over, or the hashtag Le Champion over, like, seriously? That is professional wrestling.
It's
and
about the
charisma. Don't get that from the former members of TM61.
Yeah, it's about the charisma, the attitude that you show, and
we're not talking about Captain Charisma.
Yeah, it's a shout out to Christian and all you peeps out there. But it's Shane Thorne. Just, I don't know, he just doesn't grab your attention like some of the other people. But he definitely got my attention in this match because, my goodness, him and Gargano put on a classic here. I mean, back and forth. I didn't think it was going to be. I mean, I figured it was going to be a great match, but I didn't think Shane Thorne was going to get in as much offense as he did. And Johnny was actually, which he plays it so well, went back to playing the underdog character in this match here. Shane Thorne actually had the upper hand for a lot of this match, which I did not expect.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either. But again, I didn't see it, so sure, it happened. I guarantee it.
But yeah, this match ends with, of course, Johnny Gargano picking up the win. He's the first person that I think of when I see Johnny Gargano. Can you guess?
I got nothing.
Daniel Bryan.
Of course.
When I see Johnny Gargano, the amount of crowd support this guy has, he comes out. When's the last time? There are 3 people that I've seen come out of NXT as you can throw Finn Balor in this category too, but I don't really put him in this like supreme like baby face, like ultra baby face category. When I think of like baby faces like this, I think of 3 people. I think of Sami Zayn,
rest in peace.
I think of Bayley,
rest in peace,
and I think of Daniel Bryan.
Hey, he's alive.
Those are people that are just forever baby faces. You don't turn them heel.
Looking at you, WWE.
Because they are just, if you book them correctly, they are just going to forever be over. These are gimmicks that don't get old because they resonate with the fan base. And Johnny Gargano, again, has that underdog, never give up mentality that just, you feel that's guttural. It hits you right here. Every time he comes out and his theme song hits, the crowd's just eating it up. He is Johnny Wrestling, and it's not just because he's so good in the ring at what he does, but he makes you believe every time he's going out there that he's going to win this match.
Well, and this is the other thing, and this is one of those, Johnny Gargano not making it to the main roster, because, now NXT is like a third brand, whatever. Him not making it to the main roster is the best thing that could ever happen to his career.
Absolutely.
We see what's happened to these major NXT talents when they've come up. Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens. I mean, he had a good run, but you know why he had a good run? Chris Jericho. That's why.
Are you giving? We're gonna move
Come on now. I mean, the Festival of Friendship.
I think Kevin Owens had a good run because he started out by beating John Cena. That's
fair. That was a really good showing.
You can't put. I'm sorry, but you can't give Chris Jericho credit for what Kevin Owens has been doing. He has been. I'm not even going to go on that tangent.
If I would like to, I could give Chris Jericho credit for the existence of the sun and moon. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily make it fact.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at Sami Zayn, you look at Kevin Owens outside of the one run.
Look at Bayley,
Shinsuke Nakamura.
God, what they did to Bayley, I'm so
Robert
sorry.
Roode.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, who still hasn't got the big one.
I mean, at least he hasn't been booked terribly. I mean, he's not in an important storyline, but he's still got that hint of importance, that hint of I'm still a badass.
Yeah.
And
so, Johnny put on a great match. Shane Thorne also put on a great match. I think this was a pretty good showing of what NXT is, even if you don't know the names. A lot of casual wrestling fans who may have tuned in who are more just the Raw and Smackdown type who have no idea who Shane Thorne is. They probably thought the same things that we did.
And I see the biggest thing for I guess, and I'm going to compare NXT to AEW here, is that I think the biggest thing that has the upper hand for NXT, at least in my opinion, is that, again, when people think indie wrestling, they just think like flippy shit and stuff like that. And yeah, you get that on NXT, but you also get amazing storytelling, which if you're a WWE fan, it's something that you've been severely lacking for God knows how long. So it's definitely, if you're a wrestling fan, this is, Wednesday nights are the place to be, because you're going to get some of everything here.
And that's why, on a consistent basis, you and I have a conversation about, do we really have to do Mondays and Fridays?
And I'm actually going to save it for later on, because I had a thought pop in my mind, but no, I'll save it to the end. But let's move on to the next match. It's Shayna Baszler versus our girl, Candice LeRae.
You know, I love Candice LeRae, and you are one of those few people that you go up against Shayna Baszler, and I go, yeah, you have a reasonable chance of winning this match.
Let's be honest, no, she didn't.
Well, I mean, she had a better chance than most of the people who've recently faced Shayna Baszler.
Better chance than Mia Yim.
Yes, she had a better chance than Mia Yim. That's exactly what I meant. Candice, I love your work style. Shayna, you're a certified badass. It doesn't even matter.
Shayna Baszler is what Ronda Rousey should have been.
Exactly. Except she's going to lose to Tegan Knox. Love you, Tegan.
Yeah, if anyone's going to knock off Shayna Baszler, it'll be Tegan Knox. Or Asuka when she comes back to NXT.
Book it. So,
I'd love to see that. Why did I say that? Now I want to see this match.
So, we talk about this Tegan Knox thing all the time, and it's, you see how much WWE got behind her in the Mae Young Classic the first time, and then she got injured. And then got behind her in the Mae Young Classic the second time, and then she got injured. Yeah. So she was reportedly the scheduled winner for the first Mae Young Classic before her injury, and then the second one before her injury. So to see how hot of a commodity they think she is, and they are correct, Lady Kane is the epitome of female talent. The girl with the shiniest wizard is the person I genuinely think could be the one to dethrone Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, but
but it wasn't Candice LeRae.
No,
I'll tell you that.
It's not. Baszler wins, surprisingly. Then we get a match that I didn't think was going to be a good match. I mean, I thought it was going to be a good match simply because
it's Pete Dunne.
Well, that, and because I know the work rate of Danny Burch, but at the same time, he's not, one of those over guys with the crowd. But the crowd actually, they bit, and they got into this match.
The bruiserweight.
Yeah, Pete Dunne is fantastic. And his theme song, my God, it just gets you hyped. It gets you pumped.
You talk about in-ring talent. You talk about guys who might be underappreciated. Pete Dunne, top of the list.
Is it underappreciated? I don't think...
But this is the thing. People on the main roster, outside of the couple UK championship matches he had on main roster shows, he is not as well known by the casual fan as most people in NXT might be. And same thing with Walter. I mean, if you ask Monday Night Raw, so you go to Monday Night Raw and you ask some dude wearing a John Cena t-shirt if he knows who Walter is.
I mean, okay. These are also the same people that were calling Finn Balor vanilla midget. So, I mean, I don't expect much from the general casual.
And that's what I'm saying. Crowd. I mean,
And you shouldn't, because, I mean, let's be honest, not everyone's a mark like you and me that are going out and doing podcasts and watching every piece of wrestling content they can.
Like, you viewers at home don't understand how much we love wrestling. I genuinely was considering trying to do more content than we are, and we both, for all intents and purposes, have two jobs outside of this.
really glad we were going to do
NXT UK and 205 Live. After 2 months, I had a plan to start doing New Japan and then an additional add-on of ROH.
You see, we're doing this a week late, so it's a good thing that we decided not to.
I mean, but that's just a good example of how much we love wrestling. I mean, we sat down and we watched Dominion. We don't watch New Japan on a weekly basis. But you sit down, you watch Dominion, you watch Wrestle Kingdom. We watch, the Wrestle Kingdom AJ Styles Shinsuke Nakamura match. Yeah. You watch Okada and Kenny Omega go at it, and that is just an example of it. There are not a ton of people out there like us. So you're right. If I ask somebody who Walter is and they don't know, maybe I shouldn't be so upset. But he's your NXT UK champion. Like, he is a champion in your company.
But I feel like that's on WWE. That's not on the fan base, because how much are they? First of all, they're not pushing NXT UK except mainly in the UK market, and even then, they're not doing a fantastic job of that.
It's gonna be really funny when Walter shows up at the Royal Rumble and everyone's like, "Who is this behemoth?"
Well, here's the nice thing about NXT coming over to TV is that they've kind of started to merge 205 Live and NXT UK all into the NXT brand. I mean, you even saw it; it's being called the NXT Cruiserweight Championship.
Well, and this is the other thing that's nice about NXT being live now. So NXT being live, they can do their NXT UK shoots, and they record 4 episodes in a row. And they get that 4 hours of content taken care of, and then they can come over stateside for 2 weeks, work a program, and go back over to the UK.
Yes.
Which has allowed us to have Imperium come to NXT here in the US, which has allowed some sort of recognition to go to Walter, the NXT UK champ, and to Alexander Wolf.
Yeah.
But Imperium and Walter are relatively unknown, and that's where Pete Dunne has been. I mean, he's more well-known than Walter. He's more well-known than probably most people on the NXT UK scene, but that's because he has branded himself as one of the most can't-miss talents in WWE right now.
Yeah, so we're going to move on here. I think we kind of get a little off track there. So
we do have to mention Damian Priest.
Well, we didn't even talk about who won the match. Pete Dunne did win the match.
Yes, with the bitter end. I thought you meant like move on to the next match. I was like, no, it's not time yet. Damian Priest then comes out afterwards, attacks Pete Dunne from behind, hits the Archer pose, and lights go out.
Yeah. So
cool, I guess.
Then we get into the main event.
The NXT Tag Team Championship match between the Undisputed Era
and the Private Party.
The Undisputed Era and the Street Profits, Feet Wale.
This was interesting to me because if you're a rap fan and you've listened to Wale at all, it's just kind of mind-boggling to just see him just kind of randomly pop up at WWE events. We've seen him on the main roster with the New Day before. He hosted that rap battle between New Day and the Usos. He kind of pops up just randomly every once in a while, and now apparently he's aligned himself with the Street Profits, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, he was kind of annoying though in this segment because the Street Profits come out and he's like DJ
We want the smoke. We want the smoke.
Yeah, he was all over this, and God, it was annoying. Kind of sounded like DJ Khaled over
DJ Khaled.
Yeah, he just wouldn't shut up, and I was actually normally I'm like hype when the Street Profits come out, but I just couldn't wait for them to get in the ring and their music just shut off because, dear goodness. And then the Undisputed Era, they come out and shows you just, I don't know if it's the influence of Adam Cole, but these guys, I mean, still one of the most over stables in professional wrestling.
Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, extremely over. Both teams look very, very strong in this match.
Kyle O'Reilly, when he comes out, he's playing the guitar on the championship title.
The Ayatollah of air guitar. Thank you for that one, Morrow.
And can we talk about Morrow? We haven't really touched on him. I love Mauro Ranallo, but he was not on his game.
He was a little off point.
He was forcing some of these puns or like.
Well, you know what I think is really ironic, and I hadn't noticed this until now. The Ayatollah of air guitar would probably have been entering the ring about the same time the Ayatollah of rock and rolla was over on AEW. Really, Morrow? Really?
Well, we talk about this too. We talk about the shots that AEW kind of took at NXT. NXT took a shot at AEW. They said later on this match, we were kind of getting towards the end of the allotted time block for NXT.
And this match will continue until we have a winner right here live on the USA Network. So yes, okay, congratulations, WWE. You don't have time limits. Matches do not go to draws. And that may be all fine and well. Ask Omega Okada, the draw works.
I did think that was kind of funny.
But good shot. No, seriously, that was a good shot. I thought that was funny. And that is a thing. I mean, draws in wrestling matches certainly work in the right scenarios. If AEW starts overusing them, then yes, you're correct, Morrow, and you're correct, WWE, for writing up that shot.
Yeah.
But if they don't, I mean, all's fair in love and war, I suppose.
Right. So this match was amazing, and how could it not be? I mean, we've seen this match before. It was fantastic in every facet of the way. Street Profits are just, every time they're in the ring, they're just exciting, they're fast-paced, and, we talked about who has one of the best hot tags in the business right now. We both said Otis last week, but...
And we talked about Ibar earlier this week, and talked about Luchasaurus a week ago, but go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But, we talk about hot tags, and this is a great example with the Street Profits.
Yeah, and for the life of me, I am forgetting his name. But, see, now...
The bigger guy.
And sorry, it's been a long day, so I actually have to look up his name here, if you give me a second.
Well, I don't think they really have an option to give you a second. They're kind of watching a video right now. Anyways, this was a fantastic match from top to bottom.
Angelo Dawkins.
There you go.
So, Angelo Dawkins, you're going to talk about a hot tag. When this guy comes out, he's just 0 to 100, like just out the gate. He's nonstop, just high octane. He's just hitting big move after big move. How do you stop this guy? It's like a freight train just coming in. I mean, it's amazing. I loved every second of this match. Unfortunately, it did have to end at a certain point, and I would have preferred a clean victory for this match, a clean ending, but we get the run-in help from Roderick Strong, and that's how the Street Profits end up losing with the distraction. So, Undisputed Era retain.
Adam Cole comes out to celebrate, and much to his surprise, a celebration once again of his own, interrupted by Tommaso Ciampa.
The Sicilian psychopath, as Morrow has dubbed him.
Ciampa, it's good to see you back. Both you and Finn Balor being in the WWE NXT Championship picture is going to be fantastic.
I'm hoping for a triple threat match.
I genuinely am too, because then you have no reason not to take the belt off Cole.
Yeah, so that was NXT. You want to talk about the match of the night if you want to go first?
There's no question. Riddle Cole, without a doubt. If you go somewhere else, I'm going to be utterly shocked.
Well, see, the thing is, you didn't watch the Gargano versus Shane Thorne match, so you can't speak on that match.
That's fair.
Who am I kidding? It was Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle. That was my match of the night. Although, if I had to have an MVP...
Which you do have to have an MVP.
Yes, so if I'm picking an MVP for tonight, it's Adam Cole. I mean, how could it not be? I mean, the close second is Johnny Gargano, because if we're being like technical, every NXT MVP that Johnny Gargano's on, it should be Johnny Gargano. He's that
every
good.
show he should be the MVP.
He's that good. But this was Adam Cole's night.
I don't know if you've noticed this or not by now, but I like to go a little bit off my board with the MVP, unless it's like an obviously greatest performance of all time thing. And it has a lot to do with the fact that I think there are a lot of people in the higher mid card that are a little bit underrated, and this is one of those cases. So my MVP for the night is Io Shirai.
Okay.
I don't want to say I got behind you because you're a heel, and if I got behind you, that'd be like bad. But you genuinely drive fan feeling. You make people feel for you. You make people understand. It's almost like people relate so well with you. They want you to beat the living hell out of people. So, Io Shirai, you did a fantabulous job. And that is going to be our wrap-up for NXT. Let's go touch base on SmackDown for 30 seconds.
Actually, before we get into SmackDown, let's compare and contrast. Let's talk about our pros and cons from AEW and NXT. So, first of all, just out the gate, what do you think was the better show? And then we'll go from there.
Dynamite.
NXT. It's not just because I'm a WWE stan. But
yes, it is.
No, actually, if you look, and this is what I was actually going to talk about earlier. If you look at a lot of fans online talking, a lot of people, I don't want to say most, but it seemed like almost a majority of people were actually saying that NXT had a better showing than AEW. And I was actually surprised by your pick because we talked about this last week. And
we did talk about this.
You said that you were leaning towards NXT being the better show.
I was leaning towards NXT being the better show, and then I thought about something. NXT was on their season premiere. They were putting out every title match.
Except, hold up, NXT wasn't on their season premiere. They had already had
That was technically Season 0, Pilot 1. This was Season 1, Episode 1 of NXT on USA Network.
They didn't announce it as a season premiere.
They did on Monday night. On Monday Night Raw, they said the season premiere of NXT.
They just, I don't know, they didn't mention it on the show.
Well, because NXT's not Raw and they're not scrapping for ratings. So NXT rolled out the gold carpet, if you will, the black carpet. And they did everything that they could, and they threw everything but the kitchen sink at this. AEW stuck to their projected card. They said, we had that show at All Out. All Out was our NXT season premiere. This is the follow-up. So it's almost like we're seeing what would be, this week's NXT and this week's Dynamite, but this week's Dynamite is more like a week ahead in the season, because they had their season premiere, throw everything but the kitchen sink show just a month or two ago in Chicago.
You can't knock NXT for that, though.
No, I don't knock NXT for that. But
that's your reasoning for not picking NXT as the number one show. Then.
No, my reasoning for not picking NXT as the number one show is because even though we didn't have the AEW World Championship match or the culmination of the AEW Tag Team Championship tournament on this show, I still felt invested.
But was NXT a better because those matches were for the championship, or just because they were great matches? You could have taken the title out of that picture, and that's still an amazing match.
You take the title out of one of those matches, I'm still okay. The other two, I'm less invested. Genuinely. I mean, I will watch Riddle and Cole all day. That doesn't need to be a title match.
You won't watch Undisputed Era and the Street Profits?
No.
The title made that much of a difference for you?
Yes. I mean, I'd still watch it, but it would not be the level of competition that I saw.
I completely disagree. I think that match is gold Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It doesn't matter. That match is fantastic. And that's just because they're amazing athletes. I mean, those four do something that a lot of people can't do, and that's that they have amazing chemistry with each other. That's why we've seen the match so many times, is that their level of chemistry, what they do in between those four corners, it's fantastic. And then we want to talk about another example. What about Johnny Gargano and Shane Thorne? Again, you didn't watch the match, so you can't speak on that. So I think that's another point that you kind of have to dock from that, is that those two put on, again, what I consider a classic. That was an amazing match. It was almost my match of the night. And that's one match that, because you didn't see it, I feel like that's also another factor into why you didn't like that match.
I think a lot of it had to do with just the fact that, I care a lot about Johnny Gargano. I could give two craps less about Shane Thorne. It doesn't matter how. Sometimes when you're talking about the fine line between a great debut for Dynamite and a great debut for NXT, the fine line is broken with star power.
But you care about Cutler versus MJF and not Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorne?
Because I actually care about MJF.
But you don't care about Cutler. And
that's not true.
You telling me you cared about Cutler? We were laughing at him.
Yes, we were laughing at Brandon Cutler, but he provided a very good underdog storyline. He provided that show of nerves. He did a lot of really good things, and I have followed Cutler from before his time in AEW, at least a little bit. Shane Thorne, to me, is just the dude who was in TM61, which couldn't even get over at Full Sail.
I don't know, man. If you're comparing the level of competition, the level of match quality, I think NXT had this one down packed. They put on better quality matches, in my opinion. The matches meant more, obviously, because some of them were for the championship. It just felt like NXT came out like swinging, and you're right, AEW was just kind of like, yeah, this is another episode of AEW. But when it's not, that's the thing, though. What an ignorant thing to do. This isn't just another episode of AEW. This is your season premiere of Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Okay,
so for you to come out and this is just another episode. It's not. You
said on our podcast about Monday Night Raw, you can't give things like that away on free TV. Now you're going to do a complete 180 and say, well, because it's the Dynamite debut, you need to give things away on free TV.
What did I say you can't give away on free TV?
When we were talking about having a longer match between AJ Styles and Cedric Alexander.
I said that I get that you can't give things away like that on TV. That's their mindset. I don't personally agree with that. You can give away those things on free TV. I even said if it was up to me, I would do that.
But to make the argument that noting that professional wrestling companies feel that way, to make that argument and then say, but, AEW didn't throw everything at it. AEW did everything that they could while keeping with their storylines. NXT threw the kitchen sink.
But they still kept within their storylines.
And they still lost in the ratings.
Well, because again, less people. The AEW has been something this has been building up forever. NXT, I mean, let's be honest,
has been around longer than AEW.
Yeah, but the WWE general fan base doesn't care about NXT because NXT hasn't been promoted as much as Dynamite's been promoted to the professional wrestling community.
Of course, Dynamite's been promoted to the professional wrestling community because the company that shows Dynamite actually cares about it.
But we can't use ratings in an argument for which show was better, because if that's the case, then WWE's just trash all around.
Well, yes.
NXT is not trash.
NXT, compared to AEW, is not exactly the gold standard.
That's a hot take.
You can call it a hot take if you want to. All Elite Wrestling, and until they prove otherwise. See, this is the thing. I'm always a prove me wrong kind of guy. Until they prove otherwise, that they are not everything that they have said that they are, until they have a Wednesday Night Dynamite that features a 6-man tag team match where it's Cutler and Havoc and Allen and Joey Janela and just throwing names onto a mat, they have put together a sincere and fantastic. But this, I will say this one thing. I will say this, and NXT put on a show that was the caliber of a takeover. They did. They put on their best show.
Well, I guess, and my thing is too though, is that if we're using like things like bad 6-man tag team matches as like marks of great shows, NXT doesn't do that.
No, that's
NXT regularly puts out amazing content. It just doesn't get viewed because the casual wrestling fan doesn't care, and that's
right.
the sad thing.
Well, okay, and this is the thing. Like I said, NXT put on a fantastic show. I'm not in any way saying that NXT show was bad. I never said that.
I'm not saying. I'm saying, but you're using the marks that you're using to describe AEW are this. You're saying that that's why you support AEW, but that's the same things that NXT's been doing consistently for years.
But this is the difference. Nobody cares.
But whose fault is that's not NXT's fault? NXT's been putting out amazing content. They just don't get promoted. But
NXT is just a subsidiary of WWE.
But now with the season premiere, I guess, you are putting out 2 hours of now being promoted content week in and week out on live television.
And even with the almost month of promotion that they got on the USA Network, they still fell short.
Because these are names that no one knows. And that's why it's going to take...
So are the names on Dynamite, except for Jericho and Cody.
If you're following AEW, you've been following these people for months, though. And AEW...
But if you're following AEW, likely, you've been following NXT.
But you had to choose which one to watch.
And everybody chose the better one.
They chose AEW because you haven't been following NXT probably as likely as AEW. That's just your opinion. You can't say, oh, just because it's better. That's just because you believe it's better.
I've given you a couple of reasons why I think it's better.
Again, those reasons were just... You can't knock NXT for those reasons, though.
I just did.
The things that you knocked WWE for aren't things that NXT has been doing, though.
NXT is part of WWE. You can't treat it like it's a separate company. It's not.
It's been treated as a separate brand, though.
It's been treated as the minor leagues.
Up until recently.
That's like trying to say that you can't blame the NBA G League for its poor ratings because of the NBA. Yeah, I can because the NBA does not promote the G League, and B, I can because the guys playing in the G League either can't play in the NBA or haven't been discovered to play in the NBA.
But the thing is, no one in NXT could not be. Any of those talents could easily be on the main roster. We argue for main roster talent all the time to be moved down to NXT.
And this
because
is the
NXT,
thing.
Why is the reason? Because we believe that
NXT does it better than the main roster.
That's my whole point.
But AEW does it so much better than NXT and the main roster.
Based on what? We've had one AEW show.
We've had 4.
And we've had one Wednesday night Dynamite. And NXT, even by your admission, rolled out the gold carpet. And by every standard had a better show.
I never once insinuated that they had a better show. Never once. I said that they rolled out what was like a takeover. And because of that, the content was extremely good. Just was not as good as Dynamite to me. You asked my opinion. I gave you my opinion, and you're sitting here trying to argue my opinion with me.
It's not that I'm arguing your opinion. I'm arguing the way you're trying to explain your opinion, because it just leads back to, well, this is better, instead of really trying to scientifically break it down. It's just at the end of the day, this is better.
Okay, I'll mathematically break it down for you. 2-hour time slot, 500,000 fans. Mathematics.
If we're going to break things down by just which show got more views, then we can talk about again the fact that the AEW fan base is clearly more passionate than the NXT fan base because they've been more established. Because if you've been an AEW fan, you've been following them since they became inception. You can see it by the sellout shows that AEW has, because this is something new, something we haven't seen before. NXT, as by your admission, is what was considered the minor leagues of WWE. They hadn't been promoted, hadn't been talent that probably people haven't heard of as much, that WWE hasn't tried to push as hard, and it's considered a blessing when you get called up from WWE, but that's just the twisted way that Vince McMahon does his business.
But that's the thing. That's where I'm trying to get you to understand what I'm saying. It is not NXT's fault, nor is it the fault of any of the people on NXT. They put on a great show. But Vince not caring, Vince not realizing what he has, and Vince doing so poorly with talent that went up from NXT just continues.
And I hate to cut you off, but I actually just thought about this point too. If we're going to go also off the base of numbers too, a lot of people recorded NXT to then go back and watch after AEW.
You're right.
So those are a lot of views that are also being unaccounted for.
You're right.
Thousands of views that are being unaccounted for.
So are the probably hundreds of thousands of views of people who watched NXT and recorded Dynamite.
I'm sure. I'm just saying that
I have a group chat of wrestling friends, and 50% of them recorded Dynamite to watch after NXT. 50% of them recorded NXT to watch after Dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, and like this is what I was saying, that if you go on the internet, like you see, it seemed like it was fairly split. It just seemed like a lot of people were leaning more towards NXT being just the better show for that night. Not saying that NXT is better than AEW as a whole. It's just saying that for that night, it just seemed like more people were leaning more towards NXT.
Okay,
and I think it was because you had the announcement. You compare the two announcements. You have the announcement of Jake Hager versus the return of Finn Balor and Tommaso Ciampa.
So here's the thing. I'm not looking at the announcement so much. I mean, I am to an extent, I suppose, but there was one match on NXT that grabbed my attention. Maybe two. Because, you know what? I'll throw you a bone. I'll call it two. Because then you say Gargano was that good of a match. I'll give you two matches on NXT that I genuinely cared about in any way, shape, or form. Cared about the 6-man tag in Dynamite. I cared about the women's championship match. You let me down a little bit, but I cared about it. I cared about Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes going at it, and who would face Chris Jericho at Full Gear. I cared about MJF and the fire that he brings. I cared about Jon Moxley returning to the ring, going after Kenny Omega, taking what was his. I cared about the return of Jake Hager. I cared about when Dustin Rhodes ran down to the ring, and just the fact that he hit a low blow on Sammy Guevara.
I feel though that and this is to your own admission, it's only because you followed AEW more than you have NXT recently.
Right, and I'm saying that the reason that you think NXT is better is because you're a WWE mark.
But that's not the reason. The only reason I felt that NXT was better is because I felt they just put on for that night a better show than AEW. I think that AEW has been consistently better recently than NXT, which is why I also hadn't been watching NXT up until more recently. I just felt like that show was better than Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Okay, and if I'm to say to you, I felt like that show was better than NXT, you would say, why? And I would say something and you'd say, you're wrong.
Well, this whole started just because I was asking you for the reason why, because that's the whole point of the podcast.
Well, I get that's the point of the podcast, but
yeah.
The point of the podcast is not to sit here and tell me that I'm wrong for my own opinion.
I never once said you were wrong. I was just, again, trying to get more in depth. I didn't say you were wrong. I just said, I just want to know why.
And then telling me that I loop it back to the wrong reasoning and that it's invalid.
Well, you did kind of backtrack a lot. You were kind of going in circles at one point.
But to say I want your opinion, me offer an opinion, and then you say, well, that opinion's not valid because you circled it back to something else.
I just wanted you to get more in depth, and then when you kind of looped it, it was like, well, I was hoping I'd get more.
You get more in depth on your love for the NXT show.
Well, my love for the NXT show, as I explained, was just the fact that I felt like every match was, first of all, in-ring wise, I felt like the matches on NXT were, except for the Mia Yim versus Io Shirai match. Io Shirai was amazing, but I felt like that match was probably the weakest match of the card. I felt like every match in-ring wise was just slightly better than the AEW matches. And it could be just the fact that, first of all, I thought that Riho versus, Nyla Rose was a little bit sloppy. I also thought that MJF versus Cutler, and again, Cutler I just thought was a botch fest.
See, but I feel like, now maybe this is incorrect. I could be wrong. I feel like he was playing off of his nerves. Like, that is part of the character. He was nervous. This was his very first experience on Dynamite, and he's going up against a huge talent in MJF. I feel like they were trying to play off the nerves factor.
If that's what they're doing, then huge kudos to Cutler and AEW for thinking that far ahead. But it just looked like he was just botching moves.
When I saw him trip and fall off the top turnbuckle, I went, yeah, there's no way in hell he actually just fell off of there, because he caught himself before falling very safely.
Well, I mean, you're a professional, so you're not going to just fall flat in your ass. But, I mean, we have seen people. Kalisto is a botch fest, and we've seen him.
Now, let's not talk about this. Those are fighting words.
He is. He is a huge sack of botch.
Botchamania.
We see it all the time, but when he botches, it's never like, oh my God, don't die. It's like, that was stupid. And it just kind of seemed like that.
I don't know. There have been a lot of, oh my God, please don't die moments with Kalisto.
That is fair. But it seemed like Cutler was just, I do agree that he was nervous, but I think he was nervous because he realized the moment that he's in. Like, I feel like it's not a character. I feel like that truly is Cutler. Like, oh my God, I'm one of the opening matches for freaking the first Wednesday Night Dynamite. I'm going up against one of the hottest stars.
Look, man, either way it plays into the psychology, whether he meant to do it or not.
For me, though, I just look at it as like, come on, man, you can do better than that. You couldn't have got someone better than Cutler.
And this is the other thing. And again, I can't knock NXT for rolling everybody out there, except Mia Yim. But AEW is built on the idea that they don't have to have every one of their top guys at every show. Shawn Spears had the night off. There are guys who get the night off in AEW consistently. That is their plan. You know, Shawn Spears and Jon Moxley are going to both be in action, and so is Jake Hager. So maybe the Young Bucks get the night off, or Kenny gets the night off. Well, actually, the Young Bucks won't because it's the start of the tag team tournament. But their willingness to work with professional wrestlers, give them a more usable schedule, and actually, I don't know, have a life, kind of maybe takes away from the show a little bit. So maybe that's where you're coming from. But my thing is, I feel like I understand the AEW roster better than you do. Not to knock you, but I mean, when we were watching some of the first pay-per-views, our friend group would go, yeah, Nick knows what's going on with AEW. I'm going to pick with him in the predictions.
Well, yeah, you definitely know a lot of the lesser name guys in AEW than me, but all of the big stars I followed from Ring of Honor or TNA.
But that's the thing, these lesser name guys, like Sammy Guevara, I've been following Sammy Guevara for probably a year. Kip Sabian, I've been following for 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, but that's when we started watching AEW. So
that is almost 6 months.
Yeah, ago. So that's not.
Okay, so maybe a little bit longer of a time span than that.
Yeah, so
I forgot it's October.
And I guess I'll give you that. My thing with NXT is that it's the thing is though, it is kind of similar though, because if you actually think about how massive NXT's roster is, it is huge.
Well, that's
and
the
you
thing.
don't.
Maybe I'm underappreciating the Street Profits because I don't know them as well as you do, or I'm underappreciating Fish and O'Reilly because I've only seen a probably couple handful of their matches.
Yeah, they were. I mean, and that's my thing. Some of these guys I did follow from rarely, and I mean, obviously I wasn't so much into the indie scene, but some of these guys I actually had followed from the indie scenes, and to see them arrive in NXT, it was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And again, when you talk about how massive NXT's roster is, it's a combined roster of the UK roster and the 205 Live roster. That's a lot of talent.
Absolutely.
Especially when you talk about just the standard and it by itself, the NXT roster, combine that with the other two. That's massive. Then you've got WWE just throwing main roster guys in NXT, feed me more Ryback style. So it's like, oh my.
Ryback.
So I mean, you talk about someone like Finn Balor coming back, of course I'm like immediately like, oh my god, let's go. And I guess that's my biggest thing is that when I think about what got me hyped more, what made me mark out more as a fan, it was like seeing Jon Moxley come out and attack Kenny Omega. I marked out.
That was
how can you not mark out for that? That's not as massive as Finn Balor saying, you know what? I'm going back to what made me great. I'm returning home to NXT, and I'm coming for that.
For how much I love Finn Balor, and I do. You know that. You also know that my first favorite wrestler when I got back into wrestling was Jon Moxley.
That is fair.
So when Jon Moxley came out, and Kenny Omega, when I first got into indie wrestling, was my indie darling.
That's also fair. Yeah.
When Moxley came out and attacked Omega again, there's just nothing that could overdo that. And then have Jake Hager come out and end the segment. That's it. And you know what? Maybe this is unfair because I'm looking at it from the perspective of NXT's best thing was the first match and what happened after it. AEW's best thing was the last match and what happened after it. So the last thing I had in my head from AEW was, wow, Moxley attacked, Hager came out. The last thing I had in my head from NXT was, hey, the tag championships are a thing, and Ciampa's back.
Well, Ciampa's back. That's my thing, and I guess I see it as like, it's definitely like it's hard to talk about this or to argue it, is because I mean those are your guys. You got Jake Hager, Jon Moxley, and Kenny Omega right there. So that's gonna.
I had a Mark explosion.
Yeah, so for you, that's like your wildest fantasies come true right there. So that's
and then to have Dustin Rhodes in the ring.
And for me, none of these guys on NXT are my top guys. I just love what they do so much. So I was trying generally to look at this from a like outward like this, as if I were to look at this down the middle, what I would pick if I was just coming in to watch wrestling, not like, oh, this is what I would mark out for personally. So that was, I guess we were looking at it kind of from different perspectives.
Right, and it has a lot to do with I'm in love with indie guys and Jon Moxley, and you've been watching NXT longer than I have.
Yeah,
So maybe we'll start coming closer to each other and possibly switch sides at some point. We'll never know. But quickly, very quickly, because I see the cute little thing on the camera that says we're dying.
We may have to recharge here, actually.
Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the Smackdown portion of this video. And
if you're just joining us, clicking the timestamp, welcome to the Wrevolution Podcast.
I don't know why you'd be just clicking the timestamp.
You missed out on some great...
You missed the best content we've ever put out. But guess what? We're still friends.
Absolutely.
We're professionals, I guess.
Yes. So, we're getting on to the Smackdown portion. So, first thing, as always, for me, is the aesthetics. So, we'll start things off with Pyro.
And the greatest stage in professional wrestling today.
I'm going to be honest. This may be one of the greatest stages I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's right up there with the fist.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't even say obviously. If you can have, like, these giant, like, light tube like things like this, it's like a walkway, like like a laser tag thing. It's kind of like that. If you can have that, then why can't you have the fist at that point? You might as well. I'm sure it'd take up like the same like kind of space area. Like
you should just put the fist on top of the tunnel.
Ooh, book it, Vince.
Anyways,
the stage is fantastic. It's amazing, but I don't want to harp in too much on that. So we get right on to, obviously, the McMahon family, or more specifically Vince and Stephanie. They announced the season premiere of SmackDown on Fox. And then we get The Rock returning to SmackDown.
For the millions and millions of The Rock's fans.
And then we get the man... Becky Lynch coming out, and they cut a promo. And
with the super tough dude, King Corbin.
King Corbin comes out, and he's trying to proclaim himself as the most electrifying superstar in sports entertainment, which, that's a joke.
Very electrifying. Almost as electrifying as Michael Cole's voice.
And then both Becky Lynch and The Rock hit their finishing moves on King Corbin. We move on. Then we get Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair versus Bayley and Sasha Banks. It's a 4 horsewomen tag team match.
Yay.
Which, if this was 2016, 17, I'd be marking out right now. But because this is 2019, we have Charlotte, who I, again, do not care about. I'm not gonna.
Deep breaths.
Okay.
Deep breaths.
Okay. We have Bayley, who again is weird, and then we have 2 of the best wrestlers, women wrestlers in professional wrestling today.
Absolutely.
So that's that match. Does anyone care? Not really.
And this is what I meant by we're just gonna break this down briefly. Neither of us were particularly super duper impressed with SmackDown. I mean, it was better than Raw, but in comparison to Dynamite and NXT, which we put on this video as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was super disappointed in SmackDown. I mean, you heard how we had hope, at least on Raw, for SmackDown being better, which it was, but I mean...
Hard not to be better than a turd.
Yeah, but this was... Again, it's just more of the same. I mean, yay, you're on Fox now. Like, I don't know. Again, we're just going to keep moving forward with this. In case you care... or you don't already know already, Flair and Lynch defeat Bayley and Banks.
Shocker.
Then we get on to some Fiend action.
Yeah.
Before he got ruined at Hell in the Cell. Fiend,
he has a chance to come back, I hope.
Yeah, so that was cool. That's just more. This just shows more reasons why you did the Fiend wrong. Don't mess him up. So that happened, and then we get one of the actual matches I cared about on this show, which was the ladder match, Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon, where if either man loses, they will be fired from SmackDown.
Nothing gave me more satisfaction than Kevin Owens grabbing Shane by the neck and yelling, "You're fired," in his face.
This, I'm going to be honest, I mean, this is a match that I shouldn't care about because it's another McMahon family match, and it's at a grand scale, it's Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon, but it was good.
Again, Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon. Again.
But it was good. Like, it was a good match, and it wasn't like unlike other McMahon family matches, it wasn't like super long. It didn't overstay its welcome. It happened, and then it was over just like that. I got enough of it. I got what I wanted out of that match, and we got the result that everybody wanted. Bye-bye, Shane McMahon. Thank God. So hopefully that alone just saved SmackDown for me right there.
It's just going to be really sad if that means that Kevin Owens is no longer going to NXT, which was rumored to be the case.
That's fair. Then we get the 8-man tag team match between Braun Strowman, The Miz, and Heavy Machinery versus Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, United States Champion AJ Styles, and Randy Orton. Do you care? I don't care.
No, the only reason I care is because of the interaction that took place during the match. Braun Strowman taunting a little with Tyson Fury. Then Braun tosses Dolph Ziggler into the barricade, into Tyson Fury. Fury took issue with it, climbed the barricade, and it looked like we were going to have a squaring off of the Gypsy King and the Monster Among Men. Security was able to secure Tyson Fury for the most part. And then, of course, we'll break that down further on our Raw podcast, which we are still yet to do. It's now Wednesday, although, Tuesday goes into Wednesday pretty easy when you started at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Up next, we have Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan. I don't really get why you had this match when you're about to have a tag team match on Sunday. At that
there was
point,
no need for it.
It was pointless. So doesn't matter. Who cares? And then we get to the reason why we're actually talking about this show, while we're even spending any time on this show, and that's the main event.
The disservice that WWE did to Kofi Kingston, the championship reign that he had was magical. By no stretch of the imagination was this anything less than magical. This was a huge win for Kofi at WrestleMania. And then to have it end so unceremoniously in such quick fashion was just... I mean, you're more upset than I am, so I'll let you talk about it because, ratings are better when people are yelling.
I mean, it's flat out disrespectful. I'm not angry that Kofi lost the championship. He had a good long run. It's been since WrestleMania, and he's defended it multiple times successfully. So I'm okay with the loss. What made me angry is how you did it. If you want to put the title on Brock Lesnar, that's fine. I get it. He's your guy. He's your cash cow. Like him or not, Lesnar brings the ratings. Lesnar brings the cash. I'm okay with that. You just don't have to do it in such a blatant, disrespectful... You gave Kofi the finger, essentially, is what you did. This is your workhorse. This is the guy that's been, for the last couple months, been putting this company on his back. Hell, for the last how many years?
Yeah, to anybody who believed in the Kofi Kingston underdog, you can do anything you set your mind to, work hard enough over a 12-year span, you can do things, storyline. This was like, oh yeah, by the way, that's until Brock Lesnar comes around, or someone like Brock.
You can do anything you want until Brock Lesnar comes around. Then, screw that crap. It's Brock Lesnar. It didn't make sense. It was. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I don't think it. Honestly, I don't think you deserve it. Because, not you the fans, but WWE, because if you didn't take the time to plan out this match and give this match the time it deserves, then why should we take the time to spend on this match? So, I'm not going to.
I will spend a moment or two talking about what occurred after the match, because Mr. Fight Mode, Brock Lesnar, sure looked like he was not in fight mode when Cain Velasquez came around.
The first time I've ever seen Brock look scared.
Yeah, Brock was quaking in his very interestingly shaped boots.
Yeah, Rey Mysterio comes out and he's got old cousin Cain Velasquez, or
Dominic's godfather,
God brother, I guess. And
however you would put that,
yeah, I don't even know how that works, but yeah, Cain Velasquez comes out and he was ready to fight Brock right away. He just charged right at the ring.
Well, Cain was in fight mode and Brock was not.
He wanted no part of that. He was out. And as the commentary team mentioned, this is the guy that beat in UFC beat Brock Lesnar for the.
He is the man who took the heavyweight championship off of Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
So, it might be another celebrity match we get, but kind of hope it's a shoot.
Well, yeah, I mean, if this is like, you have two guys that could legitimately probably kill like 90% of the WWE roster, and you're about to throw them in a scripted, pre-planned match.
Shoot it, dude. Let them go at it MMA style inside a WWE.
I mean,
ring.
I feel like even if it is pre-planned and scripted, it's gonna turn into a shoot because neither one of these guys wants to look weak.
No, and neither one of them like each other.
And I guarantee one thing goes wrong in that match, they're gonna get pissed. And
one guy doesn't pull a punch, the other one is going to come back.
We could watch somebody die in this match.
Yeah, because the WWE refs are not trained the way that UFC refs are.
But is it scary that I'm like weirdly excited for this?
Yeah, no, that's a little terrifying.
Not
think
for the death.
that marks you as a sociopath.
Not the death part, but just excited for the fact that we could be getting a UFC match without paying pay-per-view charges for it.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, ideally, you kind of book it like an indie match.
Yeah.
You say, these are like the 3 major points I want you to hit in the match. I want Kane to do this at one point. I want Brock to do this at one point. And then I want Brock to finish him off with an F5.
Do you think Kane's going to Suplex City?
No, God no. But what I'm saying is, anything in between, let these guys work it out. If they want to shoot fight between the 3 or 4 things you lay out, and they want to go toe-to-toe and beat the hell out of each other, and then the referee climbs in and says, hey guys, we're at point 1, I need you guys to hit this spot real quick.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, here's the thing that with this match, this needs to be at WrestleMania.
I know, and it's going to wind up at Crown Jewel.
Yeah, I was going to say, I heard the rumor going around is that this is going to be a Crown Jewel match, and I'm sorry, but you don't give this away at Crown Jewel. I don't care how much money they're paying you. This is WrestleMania.
What could be fun, now, don't get me wrong, it is a WrestleMania match. At Crown Jewel, you have a wrestling match. You have Cain Velasquez lose, and pretty quickly. And then you have Cain Velasquez come out afterwards and say, you know what? We did it your way. Kind of like McGregor did to Mayweather. We did it your way. I went toe-to-toe with you in the wrestling ring, and I stood with you. Maybe not as well as I'd hoped, but I stood with you. But at WrestleMania, at your show of shows, we're doing things my way. The way that I beat you, we're doing that. We are stepping inside the square circle with octagon rules.
See, that's a great idea, but knowing Vince McMahon, it'd be reversed. Brock would lose first at Crown Jewel, and then they'd put their guy over at Mania. Because it's the Goldberg story all over again. It's the, you've never beat me, you can't beat me. Kane would win again, and then it would happen at WrestleMania. Because that's what they do. They push Brock Lesnar at Mania.
That's true. I don't know. I just think that would be a great storyline. But either way, I think we wind up with a very important piece. I mean, we have possibly 2 celebrity matches coming out of this. And, celebrity matches aren't always the greatest of things. Tyson Fury and Cain Velasquez are not exactly slouches.
Yeah.
It's not, and no offense to you, Stephen Amell, you're a fantastic actor. It's not the Stephen Amell versus Neville match.
Yeah, but like I said,
versus Cody Rhodes. I don't even remember that match.
Yeah, but like we said, we didn't want to spend too much time on this because not only was it a lackluster show, but I don't think that we should spend more time on this show than WWE actually spent on this show.
Yeah, I mean, they probably took about, what are we at, like not even 20 minutes? Yeah, that's about how long they probably spent booking this show.
Yeah, so that was our SmackDown review. So
yeah,
glad
match of the night.
Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens. Is there really any other match for discussion?
No, there's not. There's no other match of the night.
MVP. KO.
Cain Velasquez. Yeah, KO. He
as a wrestler, yeah.
He would definitely be number 2, but it's not necessarily wrestler. It's not wrestler of the night. It's MVP of the show, and
you're right.
That to me, Cain Velasquez.
Well, there you go. So, not only was that wraps up the SmackDown review, but that also wraps up this episode of the Wrevolution Podcast in total. It's been a long episode.
Yeah.
If you stuck around with us from the beginning, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're about to get ready to record our Raw review now, so it's been a long night.
He works in 6 hours. I work in 10 hours, and we're still rolling. Camera's still rolling. Mics are still rolling.
Yes.
But we do this for you guys. We do this for the viewers. We do this for the love of professional wrestling, and that's why we're here. So I want to remind you guys all to like, share, subscribe, hit that cute little bell button.
Make sure you follow us on our socials down there at the bottom.
Yeah.
And don't forget to join the revolution.
Yeah, join the revolution and join us for our next podcast. So we're putting out like 3 hours of content almost.
Yeah.
But if you guys manage to truck through these 3 hours of content, it'll definitely be worth it. This may have been the most entertaining thing we've done in a while. And again, like I said, you and I have the utmost respect for one another and each other's opinions. But, sometimes when you're breaking things down, things get a little heated, and that's fine. That means brings ratings to First Take, right?
It's just part of what makes us good friends.
Right, exactly. Stephen A. and Skip.
There you go. So, as always, I've been Marcus White.
I'm Nick Cavalli. Don't forget to join the revolution. Have a good rest of your day or night.
See you guys next time.